Hello everybody, Not Dead Yet here, back in Smoke City, because apparently, while I was gone, there were some massive wildfires, either like in my province or in another province close to mine, and because, the downwind stream or whatever, there's a bunch of smoke covering my city. So that's a great thing to return home to. It's so bad that we are not even allowed to have backyard fires, apparently, because that is just how bad the air quality is. There were some places and teams that canceled practices because of the poor air quality, and some work days were canceled or whatever last week apparently, which is kind of nuts to me. And last week, my mom told me we're not even allowed to go have a barbecue because everything was so dry and so smoky from everything that's going on that one rogue spark or one rogue ember could set things ablaze, and the government was worried about that. We are now allowed to have barbecues with caution, apparently, so whatever the hell that means, we are still not allowed to have backyard fires. Still kind of crazy. From ghetto deep south to scorched and smoky Great White North. What an interesting thing to come back to. But that is the topic of this video. I am finally back. And what are my final thoughts on the trip now that it has come to a close? And honestly, the trip was amazing. It was way better than I ever imagined it being. Honestly speaking, it was not supposed to go how it did. Josh ended up living with me for about a month. And the funny thing was that I wasn't even supposed to stay anywhere near that long, nor was I supposed to see Josh anywhere near the amount of time I saw him. The original plan for the trip was for me to go down there for about 2 weeks, with Josh popping in maybe 2, 3, 4 times a week, and us hanging out for an hour or so whenever we could, filming 1 or 2 videos together, and then calling it a day. But after about the third day, we really hit it off as soon as we met in person. It just clicked, and the way we described it, and I don't know if we talked about it in videos before this, because there's going to be videos coming up before this one, but the way we both described it was like we just kind of picked up, like 2 old friends picking up where we left off, despite the fact that that was really our first time meeting each other in person. Obviously we had met before and spoken over YouTube and over video calls and stuff like that, but it was our first real-time meeting, and for our first real-time meeting, things felt very natural. We got along great, and so, yeah, I invited him to come stay at the hotel if he felt like it, because the hotel I had a fold-out bed that turned into a couch, and he just kind of showed up on the 3rd day with a suitcase, and, yeah, he kind of never left, and that was the trip. It was really incredible. We ended, again, obviously spent way more time together than I ever imagined it being, and some of the things that happened I will never forget. The trip was full of immense highs and incredible lows, and through it all, I just wanted to kind of think back and reflect on the whole trip, because honestly speaking, it's kind of surreal being back after all that time. It was very, very crazy the day I actually left, like when I touched down back in my city and just kind of started walking around again. It was almost this really Twilight Zone-esque feeling where it's like, I almost didn't accept that the trip was over, and I almost half expected Josh to send me a text being like, "Oh hey yo, I'm done for my bike ride, where can I pick you up, what are we doing today?" Because it was just and I remember speaking to my mom about this. It was like, wow, it's kind of strange, because this morning, he dropped me off at the airport, we were talking, we were standing side by side together, and then now obviously I'm millions or thousands, probably not millions, thousands of miles or kilometers, whichever unit of measurement you prefer, away. And it all happened, it wasn't a long time, it all happened in the span of a couple hours. It was just kind of weird. It felt like I went through a portal and was in two different worlds, and that whole feeling of bizarre Twilight Zone-esqueness carried on into the next day when I woke up, and I literally wondered if I almost dreamt the entire thing. Like, it was just this massive fever dream that I was in, and then I woke up feeling super sore, because I always wake up feeling sore. But yeah, I woke up and I was like, was any of that real almost? It just felt kind of crazy and almost too good to be true, in a sense. Through everything that happened on that trip, the more I got to know Josh and the more he got to know me, we obviously became very, very close friends. Josh is one of my closest friends, one of three people. The other two I have known for 8 years and 10 years, respectively, Paul and Brian. You've seen them on the channel before. And I don't know, it's kind of crazy that we became such good friends so quickly. I mean, you have to if you're going to live with someone for a month. And through that month that we were together, living together, and just kind of training, talking, and kind of discussing philosophies on things like life, YouTube, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Josh changed a lot. And one of the things I want to do in this video is just let you all know how proud I am of Josh and how much growth I saw in that 1 month. He hired me as his accountability coach. I'm sure that's probably public knowledge already. I've mentioned it in a few videos beforehand that we filmed that have yet to be released as of the time I'm filming this video, like this one here. But he hired me as his accountability coach almost out of nowhere. He's like, you know what? Hey, you've done a few things for me already that I like. You've given me some advice that I really like. I'd like to hire you. So, would you be interested in being my accountability coach? And you know what? I was like, sure. I'm not really qualified, I don't think. But you're my friend. We'll take it by ear and we'll figure it out. Right? And so through that month, he would come to me asking questions about things like, should I lower my calories on a rest day? What do you think of doing cardio to burn more calories? And other things, even just mentality-wise. What do I do if I'm going to a family dinner and I don't want to binge? Or how do you set up a system in place? I gave him the idea of, if you do binge, there needs to be a consequence or a punishment system that discourages you from wanting to binge again. And we started working on that together. And he even started adopting certain little traits of mine that I didn't tell him to, that he just liked and decided, hey, I'm going to do that. One of the examples was daily cardio. He said that I not only got him into daily cardio again because of my runs, but he saw me running with weights, and then so when he saw a weighted vest on sale for $30, which is a hell of a steal, I would not have been able to bring that back with me to Canada unless I wore the damn thing, but I would love to buy a weighted vest for $30. That's like $40 Canadian, but still a pound or $1 per pound is a really, really good price. But he bought a weighted vest and started doing bike rides with the weighted vest on because he was inspired by my runs. And the point that I want to make with all of that is I am incredibly proud of the leaps and bounds that Josh has made while I was working with him and living with him. When I first, the Josh that dropped me off at the airport was a very different person from the Josh that picked me up at the airport at the start of my vacation, or the start of my trip. And for starters, the Josh that dropped me off at the airport was on time as opposed to the Josh that picked me up at the airport. But aside from stuff like that, the Josh that I met when I first landed in the Deep South was lost, for lack of a better term. He seemed borderline depressed, or on his way to being depressed if he wasn't already. He had, gained about 50 pounds from binging. And I told him all of this, by the way. Everything I've said, I told him. He seemed unsure of what he wanted, both in life and in training and in his relationships. And he came to me we had discussions about, life and stuff like that, and he asked for my opinion and he asked for advice, and I gave him some really, really brutal, I want to say wake up calls, or it's a bit of a meme, but I told it like it was. I was Mr. Tell It Like It Is, Johnny Shreve, IFBB Pro, yeah boy. But I told it the way I saw it, and I didn't hold back. I was pretty harsh, and you can ask Josh just how harsh I was when I talked to him about certain things. And he took a lot of it, most if not all of it, on the chin. And he took that advice that I gave him and said, okay, yeah, he's right in this regard, that doesn't really apply, but he's right in this. And he filtered through everything I gave him, took what worked for him, took what he needed to improve on, and actively worked to improve it. I have met a lot of people. I have tried to help a lot of people for free, I might add. Cheer, Josh was paying me. Or actually, when I first had some of these conversations, he wasn't paying me. But anyway, I tried to help a lot of people. And when I tell the truth, no matter how it makes someone feel, whether you want to hear it or not, a lot of people get defensive and angry, and they don't accept it. They get mad at me, they shun me, and they drop me as a friend. Josh didn't do that. He was able to listen and continue to better himself. And that is one of the things I admire most about Josh, is he was at a real low point when I met him. And, through the difficulties in uploading, that he hadn't uploaded in a while, and he was having trouble finding his motivation, and through the weight gain from binging and various other issues in his life, it could have been very easy for him to give up and say, you know what, I'm done. Why continue to post? There's no point. It's over. I stopped. I haven't posted for like a month now. Who cares? I've already gained 50 pounds from binging. Who cares? I've this, that, and the other thing. But he didn't do that. No. He was still working hard to improve. He kept talking to me about how, I need to upload again. I want to upload again. And he kept talking about different ways to lose weight and get back to his healthier, more lean weight. We don't know if it's completely attainable for him to get as lean as he wants, but he just wants to continue to be leaner and better himself. And that is incredibly inspiring to me, because even as he's at a very low point, he perseveres. Do you know how many people would give up? There's so many people who give up, who gain X amount of weight, try to lose it, and struggle, and just go, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm done. I've tried everything. I can't. Hell, that's the entirety of the fat positive movement. But Josh wasn't like that with everything. And as I got to know him more and more, the continuous push that I saw for him to improve himself without even me pushing him. I would give him advice on the off thing here and there, but not only would he take that advice, but he would come to me asking for more. Hey, can you talked about this, explain this more to me, or hey, I remember you mentioning this, could you go more in depth into that? And then he hired me, and then by the end of it all, the Josh that dropped me off at the airport was someone who was, one, leaner. There were visible changes in his physique, in his face, but those physical changes to me are just a representation of the mental change and the mental transformation that Josh went through over the month that I knew him. Now, full disclaimer, we don't know how long that's going to last. Only time will tell. But from what I've seen, it's very promising. He was more focused, sharp. Like, I talk a lot about the eyes, and the look in Josh's eyes was one of a man that was determined to achieve not just his weight loss goals, but his goals in general, in life, on YouTube, and everything in between. I don't want to say he's not depressed or he's found himself in a month or anything. That's ludicrous, right? It takes years to truly find yourself. And I'm honestly speaking, I don't think anyone ever does in life, because we're constantly evolving, constantly growing. But Josh, near the end of the trip, was so much less lost and so much more focused and determined, and he knew more what he wanted, and he was more willing to sacrifice for it. Because that was one of the biggest things that Josh and I talked about, was this idea that you chose this life. No matter what happens, what you're doing, you chose it. And you can either choose, if something bad happens to you, you can either choose to fight to make your life better, or you can choose to not fight to make your life better. But whichever you choose, do not complain about it. Because if you choose to go, I'm going to do whatever it takes to better myself, don't complain that it's difficult, because you know that going in. And if you choose not to better yourself and not to do what it takes, you can't complain that your life sucks, because you chose to stay where you were. And Josh, in some difficult decisions, honestly, weighed them out and said, you know what? At the end of the day, the choice was easy. I knew deep down what I wanted, but I needed someone to give me that push and just ask, Josh, what do you want? And what are you willing to sacrifice for it? What are you willing to give? And he credits me for a lot of that, because I did push him a lot to kind of make that choice. But at the end of the day, Josh, you should give yourself a lot more credit, because a lot of people would choose not to just make the choice. They would get mad at me for trying to push them to make the choice and continue to lie to themselves and deny reality and live as a victim. And Josh is many things, but a victim at least is not one of them, at least not by his choice. If he has a choice, Josh is not a victim. And it's that mentality, Josh, that I really, really admire in you. And you inspire me in that regard. Another couple of things, and I've mentioned this before in the Q&As that are probably going to go up before this, is that Josh is someone who has proven time and time again that he will have my back. A lot of people in my life have turned their backs on me when I needed them the most, but Josh has proven in multiple different cases that he will stand by me, he will have my back, and he is not someone who will turn tail and run when shit hits the fan. And Josh, I appreciate that immensely. And while sure, I'm sure Josh will tell you that a lot of the things I've said and done has changed his life. And he's told me that some of the things I've said and done and conversations I've had with other people, his family, his friends and loved ones, have changed them forever. And some of the wisdom I've imparted will and has changed not just him, but all those around him for the rest of their lives. And that means more to me than you could possibly understand, knowing that I could make a difference, a positive difference in the lives of others. And for Josh specifically, in the lives of someone whom was in a very similar situation to me, just straight lost and was looking for that little push they needed to pull themselves out. I had to pull myself out, but getting to help Josh pull himself out of the abyss that he was either falling into or already had fallen into. He was either in the middle of falling or had already fallen. But helping him, extending a hand and saying, "Hey, take my hand, I'll pull you out of there." That means so much. Josh knows how much I talk about legacy and what you're remembered for, and how I don't want to be remembered for my worst mistakes, and how I don't want to be remembered as the idiot and the loudmouth moron that nobody liked. So being able to leave a positive, lasting impact like that means more to me than anyone watching could ever know. And probably, Josh, it means more than you could ever know. And that's really saying something, because you understand how much that sort of stuff means to me. So thank you, Josh. But there's one other thing I want to thank Josh for, because again, as I've said throughout this entire video, I've clearly had an impact on Josh's life, and he said I've changed it for the better, but Josh has also changed my life for the better in turn. For a long time, I realized that I was a man living in the past. As much as I talked about the future, there were a lot of people in my life who had wronged me, and a lot of people in my life whom I have wronged too. And I was living a lot every day with what ifs and coulda, woulda, shouldas, right? And that's a tough thing, when you miss, people in your past, or you've lost people, or you guys grow apart or grow distant, and people you used to love hate each other now, and, brothers become enemies and friends become strangers. It's a sad thing. And the worst part of that, to me, was the death of dreams and ideals that we once held dear. And with COVID, it was really tough to continue to move forward with, socially or whatever, because very few people, you can't interact with people. For those of you that live in Canada, understand just how hard it is to socially interact with people. You just can't. I've been in perpetual code red for the past year and a half. When I left Canada, we were going into our third code red, talking about a fourth wave. And so I had 3 people I was talking to, all of them linked to a past that had a lot of good memories, but also a lot of bad or tainted memories. And it was this seclusion, because I also thought I was moving forward before COVID hit, and then when COVID hit, I realized a lot of the friends that I thought I'd made didn't really care, and no one cared to keep in touch, right? Everyone's like, oh, video call. No one cared to video call. And so when I first met Josh, or not really when I first met Josh, but as Josh and I became good friends over the course of this month, he showed me that my friends, that it was time to move on from the past friends. I used to describe it like this to people who would talk to me. It felt like my progress was like running on a treadmill. On good days, you're right at the top, right at the front of the treadmill. And, you're running as hard as you can. You're keeping up. You're even surpassing the treadmill. On bad days, you're falling behind. You're near the back, but you're still giving it. But at the end of the day, you're staying in the same place. And you can't really move forward. But if you slip up, trip, and fall, you'll get shot backwards. And through the interactions and genuine fun and genuine friendship that Josh and I had built over the course of that month, he made me realize that, yeah, there are people out there that are genuine good friends, not just the 2 that I have super close to me, and that I can continue to move on and make friends, and that the dreams and ideals that I used to hold dear with the people that are no longer my friends or that no longer speak to me, it's not just me, I'm not the only one anymore, and I can share those ambitions with other people and new people. And so near the end of the trip, I came to the realization that it was time to stop living in the past. It was time to stop, thinking about the what ifs and the regrets. It was time to step off the treadmill and truly start moving forward. And so for me, tomorrow starts today. And it was because Josh was such a real person, an authentic person, and a true friend, that I was able to do that. And so, yeah, I mean, Josh, I'm not going to say that I know that I've changed Josh's life for the better, but I hope that, Josh, that you have also changed mine for the better, because you've allowed me to finally start moving on. It's time to move forward. Josh and I have a lot of plans in the future, a lot of different things that I'm really, really excited for, and that's kind of it, isn't it? Because, and I've said this to Josh, and it is because of him, in part at least. There's also, obviously there's other factors that factor into everything I'm speaking, but Josh is one of the reasons, if not a big main reason, that for the first time in a really, really long time, I'm actually looking forward to things that the future hold. Because sure, I talked a lot about tomorrow and fighting for the future you didn't think you have, but that's kind of it, isn't it? It's a future that you don't really think you have. And you're fighting for the sake of fighting, for the hope of it all. And through various things that have happened this year, especially, meeting Greg and Josh, Johnny Shreve, and a bunch of others, not only have these people given me hope, but like I said, with Josh, through some of the plans that we've made and some of the things we plan to do, I'm not going to say that yet because I think it'll be cool to announce those when the time comes, and it may be a year or a few months or whatever down the line, but again, I still think it'd be better to kind of wait. Be through all those things and everything that's going on for the first time in what feels like forever. I can hold my head high and look forward to the future again. So, thank you, Josh, genuinely for that. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. You are a great friend and a great man, and I wish you nothing but the best. It was great meeting you. This was a great trip, and honestly, I hope to see you again sooner rather than later. But that's really all I have to say for this video. Until next time, I'm not dead yet, and if you are not either, there is always a tomorrow waiting for you.